Today we're going to talk about Project 2025 and the panic that is consuming the right now that people are figuring out what it is. And I interview ethics czar under President Obama, Norma Eisen, about whether the Supreme Court's immunity ruling is actually unconstitutional in and of itself, what happens when government officials are tasked with following illegal orders, and even whether this means that Biden could order Trump's arrest. I'm Brian Tyler Cohen, and you're watching No Lie. So in what has been a remarkably bad couple of weeks for Democrats, there is some sliver of bright light, and that is that we clearly hit a nerve by focusing on Project 2025 as far as Republicans are concerned. So it started with Trump taking to Truth Social a few days back, writing, "I know nothing about Project 2025. I have no idea who's behind it. I disagree with some of the things they're saying, and some of the things they're saying are absolutely ridiculous and abysmal. Anything they do, I wish them luck, but I have nothing to do with them." Which, of course, gave the game away, because Donald Trump doesn't back off on anything. His entire identity is predicated on his unwillingness to relent on everything. The dude is like the political equivalent of a dad who refused to ask for directions and just drives the family right into the mouth of an active volcano and still says, "Nope, this is exactly what I meant to do. This is exactly right." So for Donald Trump to backpedal and pretend that he has no idea what Project 2025 is or who's behind it is an absolute joke, especially considering the people behind it literally staffed his entire administration. So here's just a small sampling of the people behind Project 2025. Trump aide John McEntee, Chief of Staff of the Trump White House Personnel Management Paul Dans, Trump advisor Stephen Miller, Trump White House Deputy Chief of Staff for Legislative Affairs Rick Dearborn, Trump's Director of the Office of Management and Budget Russ Vought, Trump's Acting Defense Secretary Christopher Miller, Trump's Deputy Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security Ken Cuccinelli, Trump's HUD Secretary Ben Carson, Trump's Acting Director of the Bureau of Land Management William Penley, Trump's Director of Policy Planning for the State Department, Kieran Skinner, Trump's Chief of Staff to the Veteran Affairs Department, Diana Roth, Trump's Assistant Secretary of Commerce, Thomas Gilman, Trump's Director of the National Trade Council, Peter Navarro. This literally is not even the whole list. At this point, you'd be better off finding someone who's behind Project 2025 who wasn't part of the Trump White House. So the Biden campaign posted on Twitter then a screen grab of Stephen Miller, for example, starring in a Project 2025 recruitment video titled Project 2025 Presidential Administration Academy, in case there was literally any doubt about the extent to which he is involved in Project 2025, to which Miller himself responded, "A while back I made a video for students on how to build skills. I have never been involved with Project 2025, not one word, but keep hoaxing, losers. Hoaxers are all you have." Now, you've heard the expression, a hit dog will holler. All the dogs are hollering right now. In fact, let's drive this home even further. Here's Heritage Foundation President Kevin Roberts explaining how Trump's administration will be staffed to execute on the Project 2025 agenda.
We've been working with all of them on one project since soon after Joe Biden took the oath of office, before any conservative presidential candidates had even entered the race. As my friend and colleague Paul Dans before talked about briefly, our Project 2025 has developed a comprehensive policy agenda, but even more importantly, recruiting people, 20,000 people to go into the next administration, hopefully to help take back this country for you and for your audiences. We want no credit. We want the American people, if President Trump is elected again, President Trump and his administration, to take credit for that. But it will also be a great sign, if all of this is successful, that in fact, as we know in our prayer time, but maybe not every time when we're watching the news, that the Lord is still smiling upon America.
And here's Donald Trump explaining how he needs the Heritage Foundation to pass his agenda.
Your organization is named the Heritage Foundation because you understand that our glorious heritage is the foundation of everything we hope to achieve, which is why we need the help of the Heritage Foundation and everyone here tonight to get our tax cuts through the House, through the Senate.
So, to be clear, you've got Trump saying he needs the Heritage Foundation, you've got the Heritage Foundation saying it needs Trump, and yet now Trump wants you to believe that there is no relationship at all between the two. Why? Because he thinks his audience is stupid. I have said it before, but I think it's a point worth repeating. Republicans may claim to hate the Democrats, but not nearly as much as they hate their own supporters. Which is no surprise, right? But more notable is the fact that there are a few rare instances in which Trump's strongman exterior is actually pierced, and it follows the same playbook as we're seeing right here. So For example, when he had members of his administration who alienated him or criticized him in public, he always pretended in retrospect that he didn't know them or he sought to destroy their legitimacy in conservative circles. So Trump called for Ronna McDaniel, for example, to be ousted as RNC chair, even though the only reason that she oversaw losses was literally because she was too deferential to him. He trashed his former press secretary, Kayleigh McEnany, calling her a rhino. He said that Paul Manafort, his campaign chairman, came into the campaign very late and was with us for a short period of time. He called George Papadopoulos, his foreign policy advisor, a low-level volunteer. He said of Gordon Sondland, his EU ambassador and a longtime campaign donor, quote, "I have not spoken to him much. This is not a man I know well." He said that Michael Cohen, his own lawyer and fixer, was, quote, doing a tiny, tiny fraction of his legal work. Of Sidney Powell, he wrote, "Despite the fake news reports to the contrary, and without even reaching out to ask the Trump campaign, Ms. Powell was not my attorney and never was." And the list goes on and on. But the point here is clear. Donald Trump will throw you under the bus the moment he feels you become politically inconvenient for him. And he's doing the same exact thing here. Recognizing that Project 2025 has become a political liability, he desperately wants to distance himself from it. The problem is that his lies that he has no clue who's behind it are so obvious that it undermines his trust when it comes to anything Project 2025 related. Like, if he's willing to lie about who's behind it when it's literally staffed by his entire White House, then the guy will lie about literally everything. So when Trump says that he doesn't know the deal with Project 2025, just know that he is lying. This is his agenda, and it will be implemented if he wins in November. That means reproductive freedoms will be stripped away. The abortion pill and contraception will be immediately under attack. Student loan forgiveness will be reversed. Climate change efforts will stop and be overturned. The Muslim ban will be reinstated. 15 to 20 million immigrants will be deported. Guns will flood our schools. Trans Americans will be banned from serving in the military. School meals will be defunded, and the executive, meaning the president, will consolidate power and enjoy full immunity. When I say that this is the road to totalitarianism, I'm not being hyperbolic. This agenda would usher in the end of our liberal democracy and roll back rights and freedoms that were gained over the last century. So do not let Trump gaslight you into thinking that he is not as extreme as he absolutely is. The truth is staring us right in our faces. Our job is to pay attention to it. Next up is a preview of my interview with Norma Eisen, but first, just a quick reminder, we're about just over a month away from the release of my new book, Shameless. If you think you might order it at any point, please order it during this pre-order period. It helps generate buzz, which of course is super important, and you can also get a free signed book plate, which are only available in this pre-order period right now. So I'll put the link to submit for the book plate in the post description of this video, right here on the screen, or you can go to briantylercohen.com/book. And thank you so much in advance. Okay, here's a preview of my interview with Norma Eisen. The basis for this case was that a president, like you said, could order SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a presidential rival. So I'm not going to ask you why Joe Biden doesn't do that, because you and I both know that he's not going to do that. But I understand the sentiment behind it, and a lot of people have been asking me this question: why doesn't Joe Biden just do this? But I will ask this as a thought experiment. Is there anything stopping Joe Biden, for example, now that he has this newfound wide berth of presidential immunity from the Supreme Court, from stating that Donald Trump is a threat to national security for his past incitements of violence, and so he's making it an official act here to order Trump's arrest?
Yes, I think that if Biden did that now, even based on Trump's post-presidential conduct, the behavior right now, the courts would abhor it. They would reject it. They would refuse to tolerate it. The problem, and we know when we study autocratic regimes, and you have an extremely important book coming on this topic, we know when we study the decay of democracy and we study autocratic regimes, they don't boil the frog all at once. They take gradual steps. It took Putin a long time before he started ordering extrajudicial killings.
Yeah.
So I think the immediate danger of this, of course, Biden won't engage in any of that conduct. The greater danger is that the opinion sets up a kind of permission structure for Trump to do other lesser things, like using the Department of Justice and the FBI to investigate his adversaries, to drag them over the coals, to open grand juries, to issue subpoenas, using the IRS to go after his adversaries, all of the things that Nixon wanted to do. And John Dean, who was a key figure in the Nixon Watergate scandal and in bringing that nightmare to an end by cooperating, Dean says that this decision makes all of that legal. So that's the immediate danger. Biden won't do it. The risk is that Donald Trump, should he return to office, will. And that's why it's so important, whoever the Democratic nominee may be, anyone is preferable to the prospect of a Donald Trump emboldened by this decision and threatening to start imposing autocracy. Anything is preferable to that.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, because a lot of people view this election, I think, just to go off topic for a moment, a lot of people view this election as a way to either reward or punish Joe Biden. But this election is not about Joe Biden. Joe Biden is not long for this world. We're going to be here a hell of a lot longer, and it's us who are going to have to deal with the consequences of a Supreme Court, for example, that is continuing to hand down decisions on abortion, contraception, IVF, fair maps, democracy itself, LGBT rights, same-sex marriage. I mean, the list goes on and on. Joe Biden will be fine. It's us who have to live with that. So this election is not, you're not casting your ballot for or against Joe Biden. This is the future of the country that we want to live in. To watch the full interview with Norma, click the link right here on the screen, or check out the interviews playlist on my YouTube channel. You can also click the link on the screen to listen to the audio version of this episode, and of course to see more of my content. The subscribe button's on the screen as well.